Hey guys, welcome to this episode of the Happy Knitting Podcast. My name is Julia and I'm coming to you as always from Germany. Today is Sunday, the 2nd September 2018. I'm so excited about it being September. Yes, I am one of those people who has been waiting for autumn or fall all year long. It is freezing outside. I'm wearing woolen sweaters all day long and I really like it. So, besides that, this is a knitting podcast. I'm very excited for you to join me today to talk about some knitting. I have so much stuff to talk about. So if you're new to the podcast, welcome. And if you're coming back, thank you so much for being a regular viewer or maybe even subscriber of the podcast. I really appreciate all of you guys. Today, like I said, is going to be a jam-packed episode. I actually tried to record an episode after work last Thursday, I believe. The lighting was quite bad and then my work phone rang. So instead of recording my podcast 10 minutes in, I actually ended up working instead, which was a bit of a bummer. But then again, that means that now I have proper time and proper lighting to record a podcast. So maybe it's a good thing. Anyways, today, first of all, I will announce the winners of the Summer Stash Down, which I am so incredibly excited about, you guys. I'm really sad that it ended because it may have been one of the most fun knit-alongs that I've hosted personally. So I will start with announcing the winners, talk about some stuff that's going on in the group, followed by a ton of finished objects, works in progress, a tiny bit of stash enhancement, even though I'm not quite sure where I put that, but we will come to that later. And then likelihood is that I'm going to be waffling on about life in general at the end. I'm joined today by my good friend Coffee in my Luke's Gilmore Girls mug, which I love. This is one of my 3 favorite mugs that I have. Of course, filled to the brim with coffee. Today is one of those days where I made myself a coffee and then just put an espresso right on top of it because coffee. As a quick explanation, we actually went away for the weekend. We drove down to that place near the Alps on Friday afternoon/night after work, and we came back a little bit early because it was just raining nonstop. And while I do love that, we both kind of felt like we wanted to be home on Sunday. So we had breakfast this morning and then decided to just take the drive and have some time at home, which does mean that I'm able to podcast. So all that as aside, we had the Summer Stash Down, and you guys, so many people joined in. I'm still totally overwhelmed by that. I've never had that kind of participation in my cows, and it's just been really fun. I really like that this knit along was very inclusive for everyone to join in. You didn't have to, be a super professional knitter. You didn't have to have fancy yarn or have lots of knitting time. I feel like lots of different people joined in, and that was really fun. In fact, so many people joined in that I completely lost track of all the threads at some point. But I will catch up, I promise. Anyways, I have drawn some winners. We have 3 winners. The first 2 winners will each get a skein of yarn by Craftfulness Yarns, which I talked about in the past. She has been a big donator to this podcast. So let's just get right into the winners. I drew all of the winners using a random number generator, and each person can only win once. So I drew a winner twice and redrew for that. So the first winner will get this skein of Craftfulness yarn. This is in her BFL base, which I've tried before. This is a really good base for socks. I really enjoyed it. And this is called Just Another Manic Monday, which is perfect for tomorrow. I'm not very excited about tomorrow being Monday, to be honest. But this is the skein. I know that the winner will really love it because she has actually won something from me before. And the winner randomly drawn was number 61, and that is Knit Live Love, who is Verena from Germany. And apparently these days I have lots of German winners, which is really fun. I need to look at the demographics of my channel. I know that in the past most viewers have been from UK, US, Canada and so forth, but maybe I'm more watched by German people now? I'm not sure. Let me know. Anyways, Verena, you won this. I think I have your address, but please just get in touch anyways. Just in case, send me your address again and I will send that straight out to you. And the second winner will get this skein. This is in her spoil base, which is really lovely. This is really soft. It's a 80% merino, 20% nylon blend in the Folksy Red colorway, which this is beautiful, you guys. I kind of want to keep it, but Sandra has spoiled me enough, so I'm giving it away. And the winner of this skein was number 66, and that was Chris73, who is Christina, and she's also from Germany. So congratulations, Christina. Please send me your address. Please get in touch, all of you winners. Get in touch with me through Ravelry. You can find me as Wupfi, which is WUEPFI. Send me an address and I will send that straight out to you. And then for our third winner, I don't have anything exciting to show you guys, but my friend Ilse from Share My Passion, she does stitch markers, and she's recently been doing lots of like knitters, soaps and hand creams and such. And she sent me a beautiful package of, well, she was going to send shampoo bars because she started making shampoo bars in the summer, and sent me an entire package, including this one of those lip balms. I have this one on my desk and I use it all the time, and it has like knitter's hand lotion and such. And she will send one of those packages straight to another winner, and that winner was number 15, and that is the Sencha, who is Ada from Croatia, and I believe she has some German background as well. So I know she's been watching for a long time. So Ada, congratulations again. Please get in touch with me really quickly. Just let me know that you've watched this, and then I will get you in touch with Ilse and you can figure it all out. So thank you so much, first of all, to the people who donated these prizes. They make knit-alongs even more fun than they already are without prizes. And thank you so much to each and every one of you who joined in. I really appreciated that, and that was really, really fun. So that is it for the knit-along. I have some fun knit-alongs planned, but once again, I did not get my act together in time. So we'll figure that out another time. Yeah, so very quick admin stuff. All the knit-alongs, everything you can find regarding this podcast is happening in our Ravelry group, which is called the Happy Knitting Podcast group on Ravelry under the Groups tab. So please feel free to join in over there. I know that recently lots of comments have moved to YouTube, and lots of podcasters have been hosting more giveaways on YouTube, Instagram and such. But I really agree with Hohi of Hohi Locatelli. She did a live stream yesterday, and she talked about how she purposely runs things on Ravelry because she just thinks that's the best platform, and that's where we all sort of started. And that's true, so I totally agree with her. So please join our group if you want to. You can find me on Ravelry, like I said, as Wupfi, which is WUEPFI. All the projects that I talk about, I don't do show notes, but I try to have good project pages so you can find the information of what I'm doing, what colorways I'm using and such over there. And you can, of course, find me on Instagram as the Happy Knitting Podcast. So I think that is it in terms of admin, and we will start with the actual content of the podcast. So like I said, many FOs have been finished in the last 10 days or so. And I will start with the elephant in the room, which is, of course, my sweater, which I'm wearing, and oh my gosh, I love it. It's kind of moving up here because the microphone and everything is not great with the sweater, but this is the Threepmere sweater by Isolde Teague. And this will be the last time that I butcher this name, so that's great. I knit this out of Jamieson and Smith 2-ply jumper weight. Colorways are on my show notes. I don't remember because they're all just numbers. This is my first garment out of this yarn, and it is my favorite colorwork yarn, you guys. I love it. I love it so much. Where do I start? It's a top-down colorwork sweater. It's a top-down colorwork sweater, as you can see. I modified it very slightly because I did not swatch. Let's start with that. I didn't swatch. I had knit a hat in the same yarn but with a different needle, and the gauge was too small, so I decided to just go with my favorite needle and cast on, which is not what you're supposed to do. Please don't do what I do. I was really panicking at the end of the colorwork yoke when I thought it might not fit. but it does fit. It has a really interesting construction in terms of short row shaping, and it also has a tiny bit of like raglan increases after the color whack, which is something I haven't experienced before, but that was quite interesting. Sorry, I'm getting distracted because my phone is receiving messages and I can see it on the screen. I modified it very, very slightly in terms of doing less increases and short rows in the back, but only by a tiny amount. And then again, I did my own shaping for the body and the sleeves. And it came out really well. I did sort of like 4 darts across the back of the sweater, just to draw it in slightly, which is what seems to fit me the best, because I hate it when I have sweaters that fit nicely in the front and then they kind of hang off in the back, which this one doesn't, and I can't show you and I'm not going to get up, sorry about that. It fits really nicely around the shoulders. I like that I have a little bit of space here, so it's a very sort of relaxed sweater. And then I did full-length sleeves, as you can see. Again, did my own decreases. I made them relatively fitted at like a bracelet length. To be honest, I thought I was going to run out of yarn, but the opposite is true. I only used 9 balls of this yarn. This yarn is theoretically a fingering weight yarn, even though I think it is slightly thicker just because it is woolen spun and it has a different sort of characteristics. And it comes in 25-gram balls, and I use 9 balls for the entire sweater. And I have some left over of the black and the yellow, so even less than 9 balls of yarn, which is insane. That is like 225 grams of yarn, and I still don't understand how that gave me this full-length sleeve, relatively long sweater. You know what, I'm going to stand up. Let's do it. Let's mess up the entire thing and stand up so you can see. It's quite long. I'm wearing jeans with it and it is perfect. I love it. I knit this on 3.5 millimeter needles besides the ribbing. Oh, that's another modification I did. With this pattern, you actually cast on and go straight into the yoke and then add the tiny bit of ribbing later. And I totally didn't see the point of that. I don't know why you do that. I also saw that lots of people who knit the sweater had issues with the ribbing sort of not cinching in, but kind of standing up. So I did the ribbing first and then just went into the pattern, and that turned out fine. There's probably a good reason to do it the other way, but I didn't really see it, so I just did whatever I wanted to do. So yeah, super excited about the sweater. I know people are going to ask, is this yarn scratchy? It is a wool. It is a proper wool. So once again, my camera decided to stop recording. Why does it do that? I don't know. I thought I had fixed the problem, but apparently I didn't. I was talking about the yarn of the sweater and the scratchiness factor of it. It is a proper wool, so it will always be different to your sort of superwash merino single yarn. If you're expecting that, then don't get this wool. But if you do like rustic yarns, if you have tried some rustic woolly yarns, this is a very soft one in that category. I think it washed up beautifully. It is, for me personally, it is softer skin. It doesn't scratch me. I asked a couple of non-knitters and they gave me different responses, so it's just very subjective. If you're unsure, if you're very sort of sensitive for wools, I would always recommend just getting 1 ball of yarn to swatch and try and see how you feel. But personally, I think this is a relatively soft rustic yarn. So moving on to other works, finished objects. I finished my residence shawl, which is a pattern by Lavagna Patricella. This was knit out of Ching fibers in her merino single space. The yellow and neon yellow is the colorway Smiler, and the purple is the colorway Cuttlefish. Modifications that I did is I used only half the amount of yarn that you're supposed to use for the tassels. So instead of using 8 strands per tassel, I only knit 4 strands because I wanted it to hang down nicely and not be like super prominent, more like a fringe rather than tassels, I suppose. Also, I was really lucky because my sister helped me with the tassels, so that made it go a whole lot faster. Besides that, I blocked the shawl quite aggressively because I didn't really like the shape of it. It's one of those crescent-shaped shawls, and I don't really love them. And this one was really lumpy at the top. It kind of didn't want to do a straight line or anything like that, so I blocked it quite aggressively. But still, you can see this top bit, it just folds over. And it's a very wide shawl, but it's not very deep. So it's just not my preferred construction. It's not my preferred shape of shawl, but nevertheless, I think it turned out really pretty, and I'm really happy to have it done. It was quite fun to do some brioche again, and I did enjoy the yarn. So all in all, it was a really fun project. It just took me a while to finish, and now I'm ready to knit some other things, and I'm not so crazy about this anymore. But that's normal, and thankfully this is done. So yeah, that is that. And I love the fringe. It is so different to the shawls that I've knit before, and I really love it. I was considering not doing the fringe, but when I finished it without the fringe, it just didn't look finished. It just didn't look ready. It wasn't that great. And now with the fringe, it made such a difference, and I really like it now. So that is that. And then, of course, who would I be if I hadn't finished any socks? So I finished my Christmas socks, and they look really lumpy because the blocker is too small and I didn't put them on properly. But these are some very long Christmas socks. I knit 2 of them. Yeah, I have one set of small and one set of big blockers, and this is just too small. This yarn is by Regia in their seasons colorway, or color season, what's it called? Color range, I suppose. They had a collection last year with Christmas colorways, and this one is colorway number 9408. I am 99% sure in Germany you can find this under the name Adventskranz. I bought this last year, but actually yesterday went to a yarn store in Kempten where they already sold this yarn again, so I think it will be coming back to stores relatively soon, at least here in Germany. And like I said, I just knit these are plain vanilla socks, 20 rows of 2x2 rib, stockinette, 64 stitches, fish lips kiss heels, and they are most likely going to stay with me. Even though they're so pretty, I kind of want to gift them to someone because I think they would be a really great gift as well. But we'll see what happens with these. I'm really happy to have these done, and you know how much I love my commercial sock yarn every now and then. The second pair of socks that I finished are these socks for Kai. They are plain vanilla socks using Lismi Knits yarns or Lismi yarns, I'm not quite sure. I talked about that last week. It's a 19% merino, 10% nylon sock blend. I think it's her Toon blend, and the colorway is called Spring Breeze. Because this is quite a heavy fingering or even maybe sport weight yarn, I went up a needle size to 2.5 millimeter or US size 1.5. And I only ended up needing 60 stitches per round to knit Kai size socks. I did garter stitch fish lips kiss heels, and because I get asked quite often, you can do garter stitch heels with any short row heel. You just knit the purl stitches, and I really like it. It's a little bit faster, and it just adds a little bit of texture to an otherwise plain vanilla sock. And I know that Kai isn't bothered by it. It doesn't bother his feet or anything, so yeah. So these are done. I really enjoyed working with this yarn. It's just a really beautiful yarn, a very soft yarn as well, but I think it's quite high twist, so these socks should last Kai a while. So very excited to have these off the needles. And that actually finally concludes my finished objects section. So you can see I've been quite productive, which makes me really happy, especially at the end of the summer stash down. I feel like I've actually been very productive. And yeah, very happy about that. So with that, let me have some coffee and then we'll get into some works in progress. And this should be quite interesting to you guys because it's mostly things that you haven't seen before. So let's just jump right in. So in here, this is a project bag from Jibby Roo Sews, which I've been kind of addicted to her bags lately. In here is a new sock cast on with some commercial sock yarn. This I only bought a couple of weeks ago because you guys know how much I like trying new commercial sock yarn. This is King Cole in their zigzag range, and this is my first time with ever knitting with King Cole sock yarn, which I believe is made. It's made in Turkey, but King Cole is in the UK in Skipton. This colorway is called Blossom, and I cast on some plain vanilla socks because I was going out with a friend for some nitty dinner, and well, I needed to cast on some socks for that. So this is where I am with it. It's a sort of self-striping, but at the same time marled colorway. I have finished the leg, I have turned my first fish lips kiss heel in garter stitch, and now I just need to knit down the foot. So like I said, this is my first time knitting with this yarn. For me personally, it's a 75% wool, 25% nylon blend, so your pretty standard sort of commercial sock yarn, and that's exactly how it knits up as well. It is, it's not super soft, it's maybe like a Regia or Opal. It's definitely a sturdy sock yarn. It has a tiny bit of a halo to it, but it knits up really nicely. And these are the sort of socks that will essentially last forever. You can throw them in the wash, and these would be great for gifts as well. I don't know yet if I'm keeping this for myself or I'm most likely gifting. I have someone in mind who I think would like these. But we'll see about that. Nothing more exciting to tell you about these, but I'm quite enjoying these, so yeah. My second sock project is one that excites me a tiny bit more, and this is also in a bag from Jibby Roo Sews. This is, I bought this the other for 2 at a time sock knitting, and they're really genius. So let me take out my socks. So essentially, you have sort of 2 pockets in your bag, and they're separated by this pouch in the middle that has a zipper, so you can put your ball band and everything in there. And then it even has those little tabs, so you can run your yarn through them if you're knitting 2 at a time. And it keeps the yarn separate, so I think that's a really genius bag, and I really like it. And in here I have a new pair of socks from my sock blank. So I'm not going to take the sock blank out because I have it all installed very nicely in this bag, and that's been really handy for carrying it around while we've been out and about. But the sock blank that I'm using is from Hedgerow Yarns, who is in the UK, and I've talked about her plenty of times in the past. And I think this is my first time using one of her sparkle sock blanks, so it's a 75/20 merino nylon, and it has 5% silver stellina. So this doesn't have a colorway name. I think most of her sock blanks are just one of a kind. And this is a single strand sock blank, but I just snipped 1 stitch in the middle and then unraveled that in order to turn it into 2 sock blanks, so I could knit from it at the same time. So I'm doing, like I said, 2 at a time socks, and this is where we are. So these guys are ready for a heel. So far it's just been a plain vanilla sock, so I did my usual 20 rounds of 2x2 rib, followed by a stockinette, and they look quite crinkly because that is just the nature of knitting with a sock blank. The yarn has been knitted before, so it just doesn't produce such an even fabric while you're knitting. But that will ease up once I wash them, and this is the spaghetti yarn that I'm using. You can see that they don't look the same because that, again, it's not a double-stranded sock blank, it's a single-stranded sock blank, so the socks are bound to look different, which I think is really fun. Personally, I don't mind that at all. So this has been the project that I've been taking while I've been out and about on the weekend. These socks will definitely be for me. I'm doing 64 stitches on a US size 1, and yeah, really excited about these. I tend to knit from commercial sock yarn and sock blanks at the moment because that is a great way to avoid having to wind yarn, by the way, so I'm just very lazy. But yeah, very excited about this. I'm going away on a trip tomorrow, so I think I'm taking all those socks, unless I cast on something new first. But I really shouldn't. Next up, we have my sweater projects, of which there are 2. In here, oh no, I have a, oh well. In here is the sweater that I'm knitting for my sister. So if you're one of my sisters, please stop watching. But anyways, I'm knitting my sister's both Christmas sweaters, which I don't know. And I am still working on the first one, but it's only the beginning of September, so I think I'm doing quite good. Before I show you the sweater, let's talk about the yarn. The yarn is still this yarn, which I find really hard to show. It is yarn from Fair Alpaca. This is the label. I'm using their Baby Merino sport weight yarn, and you can buy that in 300 or 500 gram sets. So I got 300 grams of this dark red color. It's a nice burgundy. It's a superwash yarn, so it'll be easy to care for. I kind of prefer this sort of yarn, which is a little bit more rustic, but this is a great yarn for baby knits, for gifts, and it's 100% merino, so I really like it. The pattern that I'm doing is the Pavement sweater by Vera Välimäki. This is my second time knitting the pattern, and this is where I am. So I think I've gotten quite far in it. I think last time we spoke, I had just separated for the sleeves. You can see the sleeve shaping up here, which is really interesting. And now I'm just knitting miles and miles and miles of stockinette. But I feel like I have made quite a dent in it, so I will have to measure at some point and see how long I want to do it. I still have plenty of yarn, but yeah, I'm kind of amazed right now looking at it. I didn't realize how much I had done already. But this has been really easy, mindless knitting because I have been having some wrist pains from the project that I'm going to show you in a second. And when I have wrist pains, I don't really feel like working on socks because the tight gauge isn't really great for my wrists. So I've just been picking up this instead and just going round and round on 4mm needles, 3.5mm needles. Not quite sure. What am I using for this? Oh yeah, these are 4mm needles for a sport weight yarn. And yeah, this is a more true representation of the color, by the way. But it's coming out really nicely. The gauge is quite loose, so it's a very drapey sort of fabric. And at some point I'm going to try it on, see how far I have to go, and then maybe knit the sleeves first. I think I'm going to do like 3/4 length sleeves, which I think is what the pattern suggests. So then hopefully my first Christmas sweater will be done very soon. So yeah, that is that. And I still have 3.5 balls of my original 6 balls to go, so I have definitely enough yarn in here, which is great because I have the same yarn in a different color for my second sweater. I'm not sure yet if I'm going to do another Pavement or if that is just going to do my head in too much and maybe I'll do a different sweater. We'll see how that goes. And in here, I have my most recent sweater project, which is really, really, really exciting. Let's talk about the yarn first. The yarn that I'm using is Wollmeise yarn. I bought this in their summer sale, which they have, I think, once a year. I might be wrong. It was my first time attending their summer sale this year. I drove up with Kai. And in their summer sale, they only sell the skeins that have either knots or mistakes in the colors. So it's quite a good bargain if you want to get some Wollmeise yarn, but not necessarily damage your wallet too badly. And I picked up 2 skeins of this colorway. This is in their Pure Base, which is 100% merino. It's in their Nobody is Perfect range, which just means that there is something wrong with the skein. In these skeins, it's just the fact that there are a couple of knots in the skein. I think maybe even just one. I'm not quite sure. The colorway is Fliederbusch, and these come in 150 gram skeins. So I got 2 skeins of this colorway and just thought maybe I'll be able to get a sweater out of it, and I think I should. Especially because it turns out both of my skeins were overweight, so both of them were more like 165 grams. So that's quite a lot of yardage. That's over 1,000 meters of yarn. And I decided to try to knit a sweater. I actually haven't knit that much with Wollmeise. I've knit a couple of pairs of socks out of their twin base, but I haven't really knit sweaters out of it. But I've seen other people's sweaters and they've always felt really nice and seem like something that will hold up really, really well. So I decided to start my own sweater. And the pattern that I chose is the Jolie sweater. I'm really sorry I don't remember the designer's name. It's at the tip of my tongue, but I don't remember right now. But you will find it anyways. It's a Jolie sweater. It's a really fun sweater. She has a couple of really nice sort of simple sweaters that have like a lace or some kind of detail at the top. And then they're quite simple otherwise, which really appeals to me. So yeah, this is quite different to all my colorwork sweaters that I've been doing. This is a sweater where you have lace at the top. And now I have finished the lace and I'm just into the body of the sweater. So from now on it's just going to be very, very simple, but the first part of it, you can see the lace kind of, obviously it hasn't been blocked yet, but it's a relatively simple lace, except that you're doing a lace and short rows and going back and forth at the same time. So you're doing the shaping in the lace as well as the raglan shaping in the sleeves. So that made it quite interesting to work with. I don't want to say it's hard, it isn't crazy hard, but it did take some brain space. But now this is done, I think this is going to look really, really beautiful once the sweater is complete. Like, it's just going to be a nice sort of effect. And you can see now I have reached Stockinette Island, I have separated for the sleeves. And so now this is going to be a very simple sweater. I also like that this one has quite a large sort of neck opening. So this, I know some people like their sweaters to be really tight around their necks. I'm not that much into that. I like sort of sweaters that I can just throw on and have lots of space. The color is very, very hard to photograph, and obviously it's not great to show in a video podcast either, but I hope you get an idea of it. I'm going to put it down in a second because the lighting is going crazy and driving me nuts. But this is the sweater. Essentially what I did is I swatched with the yarn. I can show you my swatch actually, even though it's a very terrible swatch. But this is my swatch. And I picked a couple of patterns that I liked. I couldn't really decide. I just wanted a simple pattern but with some kind of interest. And then I had a couple of patterns open with different gauges. I knew that I was going to knit with a 3.5 millimeter needle. So then I just chose the one that matched my gauge the most. And I can't remember right now what my gauge is, but it is on my project page. So I got gauge for this pattern, cast on the second to smallest size, because I didn't want too much ease on my sweater, and yeah, there we are. One thing that has changed my life, actually I should start another way around. You might know that, or you may have noticed that I don't knit a ton of sweaters with indie dyed yarn. Besides the point that it is quite pricey is the fact that you need to alternate colors or alternate skeins, because otherwise the yarn will pull or maybe the skeins won't be perfectly matched and so on. And I hate alternating skeins. But my life has been changed by Diane of Suburban Stitcher, who had a similar problem, and she has introduced, I think on her last podcast, showed me the technique of helix knitting. And helix knitting is a technique that is mostly used for stripes, and if you want to knit jogless stripes, so you don't see where the stripes, end and you have to change colors, that's I think where helix knitting comes from. And I found out that you can use this technique for alternating skeins without getting sort of like a line where you carry the yarns and such. Because I've done that before, but you always get a little bit of a line where you carry the yarns. So one side of the sweater, you tend to do it, or you should do it like under your arm or somewhere where it's not very noticeable. But it's still there, and it's just really annoying, to be honest. But helix knitting is magic, you guys. I'll try to remember to link the video. If not, just look up helix knitting. I just Googled it and I found lots of videos. But it's a way of using two skeins. I have two skeins of yarn attached to this at the moment. But you don't knit one entire round before you change colors. You only knit to 3 stitches before you last change colors. Then slip 3 stitches and then use your other color again or your other skein again. It will make a lot more sense if you watch the videos. But it changed my life because it just makes such a beautiful fabric, and you can't tell at all where I have changed my yarns. I'm going to show this more to you, I think, once I'm further down. I only started alternating skeins after the lace, because within the lace and the short rows and all that, that would have been insane. And I think it doesn't really matter, but I'm really glad that I am alternating skeins now. Because while these skeins looked very, very alike when I first looked at them, even caked up, and I was very tempted to just not alternate skeins, I'm really happy that I'm doing it now, because there are just shots of more blue and shots of more red, sort of purple in here. So I'm very, very happy about that. And thank you, Diane, for saving my life with this one. So that makes me really excited, because I have a couple of sweater quantities in my stash out of beautiful hand-dyed yarn that I've kind of not been knitting, because the idea of alternating skeins just kind of turns me off, and I don't want to do that. But no, I mean, you're still alternating, you're still doing the thing with 2 balls of yarn, but so far this process has been really easy. I haven't had any like tangles or weird spots in my knitting, so that's been really great. So I'm just rambling and rambling and rambling, but that is it in terms of what I've been working on. I only have a tiny bit of stash enhancement today. First of all, really excitingly, I found this new to me company called What Mustard Made, and this is her card. I found her through Instagram, just through, the sort of explorers, exploration thing within Instagram, where you just see different things. And I really like that the other side of her card is just a rainbow. So Tracy is the genius behind What Mustard Made, and she makes really, really fun progress keepers. So I got a couple because they were actually quite affordable. I've been wanting to get one of those sort of like baubles with filled with little stars for ages. So I got one with rainbow stars, and I got one with red stars, sort of like a pinkish red. She gave me this heart just from as a gift with my order. And then, this is really hard to show you, I got a pink giraffe. Isn't this adorable? I just love it. And because with a pink giraffe, you obviously need a pink pineapple as well. And then I also got the rainbow, because rainbows everywhere, and rainbows and unicorns and such. So I'm really, really excited about these. And I can't wait to put these onto my projects now that I've shown them to you. So that is that. And then the only thing that arrived, I just found it lying in front of my door when we came back from our trip earlier today. I got some more commercial sock yarn, because I'm a sucker for commercial sock yarn, and stripes and rainbows. So when Regia came out with a stripy rainbow series of yarn, I mean, how could I not? So it's in my bag, and I'm going to keep it in the bag. So sorry about that, but I got these 3 skeins of the new Regia Perfect yarn. So if you've been following podcasts, you may know this yarn. Regia Perfect is one of those balls where you can knit 2 identical pairs of socks, and they're usually really fun sort of patterns, and they, like I said, came out with this rainbow series. So I think this is the normal rainbow. Then this one is their neon rainbow, and this one is called their pastel rainbow, and that's actually, I'm pretty sure that's what they're called. Let's see. Neon color, pastel color, and rainbow color is their names. So I just had to get these to try them and knit some colorful rainbow socks. I want to knit this rainbow because it doesn't have purple. I want to knit this one for Kai, but Kai hasn't really made up his mind yet. Anyways, they will be really, really fun, and I could not say no to that. But yeah, that is it in terms of my podcast. I feel like I had so much stuff to show you, but I got through it relatively quickly. So that's a good thing. Also, the fact that my camera cut out before and I wasn't really wanting to repeat everything twice made it a little bit shorter. I always do that when I record and then something happens and I re-record. My second recording is always a lot shorter because, well, I love to talk, otherwise I wouldn't be doing this, but at some point I get bored. So, in terms of what's been happening, I have some really exciting news to share. Well, really exciting for me. I don't think it's really exciting for you, but it's my podcast, so oh well. So anyways, you guys, you know my love for color work, for like yarn. Let's just say from Scandinavian yarn, and like traditional rustic yarn and Norwegian yarn, and you know my love for Ellie of Skandia, who I just associate with all of those things. And you guys, me and my knitty friend Marion, we are going to Oslo, and I am just over the moon excited about this. I had so many ideas of what I was going to do in terms of traveling with Kai, just by myself, whatever. I really wanted to go to EYF next year, but it turns out we're getting married the next weekend, so that's kind of crazy. And yes, I thought about it, but that's just too stressful even for me. So I'm not going to go to EYF the weekend before my wedding, or more precisely 5 days before my wedding. So I thought about going to Barcelona knits, but then we started talking about Oslo, and we decided to go to Oslo. So we're going to Oslo in the end of October / beginning of November. We are not going to the Oslo Yarn Festival or anything like that. We're just going to go to Oslo in Norway and do a knitting trip. I am ridiculously excited. First of all, to just do a trip where I'm just going to knit and sit with my favorite knitting friend and do all the things that I love. And then obviously we're going to visit all the yarn stores, and my plan is to take an empty suitcase, fill it up with Norwegian yarn, most importantly Rauma Finul yarn, which I've been wanting forever, and it is just everywhere there. It is affordable there. So essentially it's just going to be a big knitting and yarn haul trip. So I'm very, very excited about it, and I thought I would ask you guys, if you're in Oslo, if you're in Norway, if you have tips, if you have ideas, I would actually really like to just organize like a knit night one night, like maybe if a couple of podcast viewers pop up and say they would be interested in that, we could all just hang out and knit, and that would be really, really fun. So let me know if that is something you're interested in. Just putting it out there. It's still like 8 weeks to go, but I just crazy excited and looking forward to that, and I thought I would pop it on the podcast. With that Oslo idea, I had another crazy idea, which was to not buy any yarn until then. And everyone that I've told this idea to, including my knitty friend Marion and my boyfriend Kai, they have laughed in my face. They have straight out laughed, and Kai basically fell off the couch laughing and said, well, you can't do that. No way, ever. So maybe they're right, but I'm trying to just not buy any yarn, and we'll see how it goes. And if I fall off the bandwagon, it's not going to be the end of the world, but maybe if I commit on this podcast, maybe there will be a few less acquisitions, because after Norway, I'm sure there will be many. And yeah, I would actually like to knit from my stash, which has been the point of the summer stash down, I realized, but I think I've done quite well on that as well, so oh well. So that's most certainly the most exciting news. Besides that, I've been busy as usual. Last weekend, like I said, my sister was visiting, which is why I recorded my last podcast early. We had a lot of fun, except for the sad truth that I had the worst allergy attack on that weekend, so I was quite miserable. But we still had a really fun time. Did not visit any yarn stores. My week has been pretty standard, and then, like I said, we went down to Allgäu for the weekend, visited a yarn store, didn't buy any yarn. I mean, I'm getting better at this. It's been a really good weekend. Every time we go down there, the weather is terrible, so it was like raining non-stop, 10-degree weather, which is actually really quite cold if you don't have heating, because who puts their heating on in September? But it was nice. I've been wearing woolly sweaters and cardigans and shawls, and so that was really nice. What else? Nothing too exciting has been happening, seriously. We finally, after weeks and weeks and weeks, have ordered our wedding invitations. So that is one major stressful thing, hopefully out of the way, unless they turn up and they look terrible, and then both Kai and me will probably go and cry. But we'll see about that. Who knows? Maybe it'll be fine. Let's hope it'll be fine. Let's see. Is my camera still recording? Yes. Great. So that is that. Today is Sunday. Tomorrow I have to get up really, really early because I'm going on another work trip. But it will be the last time in quite a while that I have to get up that early. So that is good. I will not miss getting up at 5 or 5:30 and then taking long train rides and so on. But tomorrow might be the last time in a while. Not because I will be traveling less, but because I will be traveling later, yes. So besides the fact of getting up early and taking the train, I'm actually really excited about this week. We have a lot of exciting stuff coming up. I'm practicing more self-care lately. I noticed that my work-life balance hasn't been great. And that is partly to do with my work, but also partly to do with myself, because I like to work hard and I am very bad at saying no. I'm very bad at not answering my phone. I like my company, I like my work, so I do like working, and then sometimes it just gets too much. And also I like to be involved in everything. So I'm sure you know these people. I'm one of the people in the company. When there's anything like that someone can solve, I will try to solve it for everyone. So I have been kind of facing that and trying to reduce my workload a tiny bit. And I'm really happy about that. I noticed that I work in a startup, so it's normal to work a lot. But I noticed that some nights or some weeks I would not really leave the house when I'm working from home. Or I wouldn't really dare to make plans in the evenings because I always felt like, well, what if something comes up? And I am trying to get better at that. So I'm really proud of that. I know it sounds stupid, but I'm trying to improve my work-life balance by starting with myself and focusing a little bit more on self-care. So if you have any sort of like tips for, not like self-help tips, but if you have any sort of like nice things that you do, maybe I would be really interested. One thing that I have started again, which I'm really excited about, is reading. I love reading, but I always feel like I don't have time to read. But Amy of the Stranded Direworks podcast recommended a book called The Gender Games, and it just sounded really interesting. So I just decided to download it and do some more reading, and I'm really enjoying it. So I want to do that more. Just focus on the things I love, and then when I'm not working, just try to have some self-care. So that's been going good so far. My knitting is definitely bringing me lots of joy in terms of that. I'm so happy to have this hobby that I just love. Like, my routine is actually getting up in the mornings. I get up usually 1.5 hours before I start work and I knit. And then I work during the day and I look forward to knitting at night. And I'm really, really happy to have a hobby that I'm so excited about, that still brings me so much joy. So I'm sure all of you guys can relate. I'm sure I'm not telling you anything new, but I've just been noticing how much I appreciate the knitting and all of that. In terms of self-care, I've also decided to, you know me, I'm kind of in and out of Instagram and social media, and I do really enjoy it, but then sometimes I do find it really stressful. So again, I've decided to just take it a little bit more chill, and if I want to be active, I will be, and if I just have other things going on, then I'm not going to stress out about Instagram or social media or podcasting or catching up with a group, which doesn't mean that those things aren't important to me. It just means that sometimes I need to figure out my priorities, and like interrupting dinner with my boyfriend to go on Instagram and things are just not good things to do, in my opinion. So yeah, there we go. Random ramble about my life and my musings about life, but oh well. I think it's been time for a rambly podcast for a while. My last couple of ones have been very, very rushed, which again, no time sort of thing. But I really enjoy talking to you guys. So I also want to kind of touch upon these topics. I have another couple of topics that I want to mention at some point. But we'll see how that goes. I think I've rambled enough for today. So you guys, thank you so much for joining in. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I will see you very soon, most likely next weekend. I think I should be back to a normal schedule, but then again, who knows? If you subscribe, you will get my videos anyhow. And until then, thank you so much for watching. Have a great week. Happy knitting, and I will see you soon. Bye!